to the ScrapbookPal.com YouTube channel. I'm Misty, and in today's video, I'm going to be using the Chrysanthemum dies, stencils, and stamp set to create a couple of projects with you. So as you can see here in the picture, this stamp set is one long piece, and I only have the mini Misty. So I'm going to end up cutting this stamp up. So don't be scared. Don't be alarmed. It'll be okay. But as you can see here, if you have the regular Misty, I believe this will fit. But again, I only have the Misty. And so I'm going to go ahead and use my Tim Holtz scissors, and I'm just going to cut around and cut it apart, basically. Well, because of the way this stamp is made, it's not necessarily a big deal, and I'm going to share with you how I can still do the stenciling and still do the die cutting, even though I've cut the stamp apart, and I'm just removing some of the extra photopolymer. So if you are like me and you don't have a bigger stamp positioner, then this is a good way to use these stamps. It's been a while since I've used some Pinkfresh stamps, so I didn't realize that that's how they do them now. So yeah, I am glad that I know. I am using some VersaFine Onyx black ink with this stamp set, and we're going to be using some Pinkfresh Studio inks to stencil. So as you can see here, this is the full length stencil, but I am lining it up with each different page. So you can see that these are already dirty, and that's because I hadn't done this technique before, and I wanted to make sure that I practiced before I got on my camera and did it with you. So the Pinkfresh inks come 4 to a pack, and it's basically a gradient from lightest to darkest. So each of these stencils at the top left is numbered 1 through 6. So 1 is the lightest, 2 is the next darkest, like it goes from lightest to darkest. So 1 through 4. So 4 is going to be the darkest ink color, and I'm using the reds, and you will find all of the supplies listed in the description box down below. This was actually pretty simple and an easy way to color stamps if you're not someone who enjoys coloring with markers, pencils, watercoloring, etc. This actually went really quickly. I ended up doing 2 of each, and you'll see that we have a couple of projects at the end, but this was actually really easy. And like I said, for stencil number 1, I started with the lightest color. For stencil number 2, I went to the next color. Stencil number 3, I went to the next color. And then stencil number 4 was the darkest color. And I have just lined up the stencil with the darkest lines. And again, even cutting this, cutting the stamp, I didn't have any issues whatsoever. Now I have a Wendy Vecchi Make It magnetic platform thing, which I could have used to do this, but it's so dirty and it's very, very, very reflective. And my lights are already reflecting off the stencil material, so I didn't want to bring in something even more reflective. But so that's why you see me using a little bit of washi tape, and I just run that on the back of my hand so it doesn't tear the paper. And as you can see here, I'm a little messy, and that's what happens. Are you really crafting if you don't get a little bit of ink or something somewhere, right? Am I right? Am I right? Anyway, I love how these images turned out. This is definitely something that I can see me purchasing more in the future because it was just so simple to color. So there are 4 gradients for the flowers, and there's only 2 for the greenery. So for the green colors, I'm going to use the 2 of the lightest. And again, I'm just lining it up with the stamp lines and going from there. Now, when I practiced, I used the Honeybee Stamps no line ink, and I was still able to line it up that way as well. But I really liked the look of it stamped in black. I just think it's absolutely beautiful. You will want to let your VersaFine ink dry because it is a pigment ink, meaning it doesn't dye the paper, so it doesn't sink in. It'll sit on top of the paper, and so you'll have to give it a little bit time to dry. And again, this was really simple, really, really pretty. You could play with all different colors if you wanted to. I just really enjoyed it, and I really love how these flowers turned out. I have to admit that I have never been one who has seen a chrysanthemum, I don't think. The only kind of history I have with that is when I taught first, second, third, not third, what am I talking about? Kinder, first, second. And when I was teaching, there was a book called Chrysanthemum, and it's about a little mouse, and that's her name. And it's all about how important name and ownership is to little ones. So yeah, anyway. I thought that was a really cool story. And if you have kiddos or if you're a teacher, etc., that's a really fun book, because if you think about it, little ones, that's really the only ownership they have is of their name. So I've always made sure that I've tried to pronounce even adults, people's names correctly. That's really important to me. So as I mentioned, this actually moved really, really quickly. It was really easy to line it up. So if you're like me and you need to do a little bit of stamp surgery, never fear, it'll be all right. It'll be okay. And I love these little ink cubes. They're perfect size. And again, they come in a gradient and they have so many different colors. I don't have all of the sets, but they are now on my list. So hopefully at some point, and possibly the bigger Misty, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie and say I won't get it. We'll see. So once I have that done, I'm going to go ahead and cut them out. And you can see here that I'm just going to end up having to cut out 2 pieces of paper rather than 1. But again, it's not a big deal. It worked out really well. And yeah. So this is what they look like when they pop out. So pretty. Okay, so I am bringing in, I believe this is a hexagon. Again, I will have all the supplies linked down below. I want to do a shaped card. So this is actually a folded note card. It's A2, so it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I have left the left side of the die hang off this fold mark, this like where it's folded. That way it didn't cut there and I was able to make a shaped card. Now I'm going to bring in some silver and some gold glitter paper, and I am going to cut a frame. And what I did was I added all of this to the silver, and then I brought in a piece of gold and just tucked it behind it and sent all of this through my die cutting machine. And when I did that, I ended up with 3 different pieces. I have the center and then I have a frame, and I went ahead and cut a second card base. And again, you just want to hang over the die past your fold line. That way it doesn't cut all the way through. And that's an easy way to make a shaped card. So I decided to go with this setup, but this one actually would have looked really nice too. So if I were to remake this, maybe I would do it that way. You'll have to let me know in the comments down below, which one do you think you like better, with it this way, with the white border, or the way that I did it with the white in the center. I'd be really interested to know what you think of that. Oh my gosh, even looking at this now, I'm just like, it's so pretty. And I end up turning this into a Christmas card because I've got Christmas on the brain. I'm filming this at the end of November and it'll go up the first week of December. So I am still in full on Christmas holiday card mode. And so I'm using the ornament stamp set, their ornament stamp set from this year, and it's the Peace, Love, and Joy sentiment. And I am going to be heat embossing that. So I'm going to be bringing in a piece of black. This is where I really struggled. I was like, okay, am I going to heat emboss it? Am I going to stamp it on a coordinating colored cardstock? And then I decided to just go ahead and heat emboss. And so I'm going to bring in some VersaFine VersaMark ink, and I have an embossing powder static remover from, I can't remember where it's from, but again, all supplies linked down below, along with the silver and the gold embossing powder. All of that, again, will be linked in the description box down below. So I'm just removing the static, and then I am stamping with the VersaMark ink, and then I am adding a little bit of embossing powder. I store mine in these little 1 ounce jars only because that's just how it works in my storage. So I don't keep the original packaging on my embossing powder because I need it to fit where I need it to fit, basically. That's the real reason, is I needed to fit where it needs to fit. So I wasn't really concerned about trying to line this up or anything like that, because I am going to use another one of these dies to cut out the sentiment. And I'm just using a heat tool to melt the embossing. It's one of my favorite tips or favorite techniques. It's just so impactful and it's so pretty. And I really wanted to bring in some more of the metallic since we have that in the paper. So don't pay any mind to the one above. I actually cut out more glitter paper and I stacked these two together, but I end up cutting it off in the end because I just ended up not liking it. I liked it just the black. I think it just gave it a bit more oomph rather than with the glitter paper behind it. And you can see there that the sentiment is just so pretty. If you are heat embossing, you're going to want to make sure that it completely cools before you run it through your die cutting machine, or it will get stuck or remove part of it. Ask me how I know. All right, I'm going to use just some dots of glue around the edge of this, and I'm going to get it adhered. This was actually pretty easy because you just had to line it up with the edges of the card layer. And again, I'm doing it in silver and gold. And I did it this way. You guys would have to let me know again if you think you would like it with the opposite. And like I said, I went ahead and adhered these together. And then after I did all that, I was like, I don't really like I felt like it's too much glitter paper. So yeah. I'm going to bring in a couple of the bigger sets of flowers to add, one on the bottom left, and then the other one is going to go on the top right. And once I do that, I'm going to go ahead and bring in some more of the blooms because I want to pop some up to give it dimension. That's the one thing about this card. There's tons of dimension, and they will still fit in a regular A2 size envelope, and they still should have no issues going through the mail. So if you remake these, there shouldn't be any issue. So I added one of the smaller buds to the sentiment, again, just using a little bit of glue. And then I'm going to play around and try to decide which flowers I'm going to put where. I'm going to bring in some foam squares from Scrapbook Adhesive. And again, links down below. You're going to get tired of me saying that. I apologize. So here I'm just trying to figure out how I want it, where I want it. I want to make sure that I didn't completely cover up what was behind it. I am going to cut one of these in half so I can get it somewhat on the stem. I didn't need it completely on the stem because that stem is going to be hidden behind the sentiment, but I do want to tuck one corner of that sentiment under that popped up flower. And this is where I'm like, that's a lot of glitter and I don't know that I love it. So again, another question, did you like the glitter or did you not like the glitter? Isn't this such a pretty holiday card? I was like, oh my gosh, I think this is going to be really pretty. And Pinkfresh and their sentiments are just so pretty. And the sentiments that came with this stamp set are actually really great as well. But again, I am full on holiday mode and I thought these would be really, really pretty. These would be really great for gift cards as well. Is it Pinkfresh that I have the gift card die from? I think it is. So yeah, I don't know. There's just something so pretty about the elegance of these florals. And again, it's a chrysanthemum, but it could look like an amaryllis. I'm not the best at pronouncing Latin floral names, so you'll just have to forgive me. Please forgive me. So I am just adjusting this a little bit. I didn't mind that it was at an angle, but I didn't want it to be completely cattywampus. And again, I'm trying to decide where I'm going to add these extra flowers because I do want to use them up, and I do end up using all of them. So I found my little squares. I knew I had some. I was just trying to find some. Right as my husband was getting ready to go to bed, I knocked everything off my desk, and it was a very loud avalanche. And I was like, I'm okay. He's like, are you really? And I'm like, I think so. So yeah, and this is where I'm like, yeah, I really want to cut off the glitter paper. And so that's what I do. I probably could have taken it off the back just because it doesn't stick, nothing really sticks really well to this kind of glitter paper, but I didn't want to warp the sentiment. So that's why I just went ahead and cut around it. So now I am going to bring in some jewels. Oh, first I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of the blooms. So I'm going to do the teeny tiny one on top of the one that's on the sentiment, and those other two I'm going to glue on the inside of the card. And once we do that, we add some jewels. That's going to be it. So really impactful, really elegant, and literally barely any work because coloring with the stencils was just so flippin' easy. Like I am so excited now for these builder stencils because it's not something that I've done before. And I've always been like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, sold, everything. Color it all the time. So adding some embellishment with these little dots. I ended up putting two big ones together, so you'll see me move it. I'm like, wait a minute, those are two big ones, like right beside each other. So I move those around, and I'm going to bring in a quick pick-up stick. I think that's what it's called, to get them adhered. But once I do that, that's it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate you. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Be sure you're following ScrapbookPal's social media, Instagram, etc. Again, all of the links will be in the description box down below. There's also a coordinating blog post if you're interested. Anywho, I hope you are having a good day, night, weekend, wherever you are. And we will see you in the next video. Bye for now.